Good morning, Stampers. Welcome to Technique Tuesday. I'm Tina with Tina's Crafty Ink Spot. Wow, look at this. We are already in October. Unbelievable. This year seemed to have gone really fast. Today's technique is called Black Magic, and I'm going to add a twist to it. So, of course, I'm going to name it Black Magic with a Twist. Now, normally the black magic technique involves stamping in white craft ink onto a dark cardstock and coloring it with colored pencils or, your watercolor pencils or something like that. Well, I've stepped it up just a little bit, and instead of white craft ink, we are going to use white embossing powder. And instead of using pencils, we're going to use our Stampin' Blends. So I've got two cards planned for you today. The first one is these beautiful flowers done on a Night of Navy background using the Floral Essence stamp set. Now, the biggest trick to this technique is that you need a solid image. Okay, you need something solid that you'll be coloring. So this worked out perfect for that. So we're going to make this one today. And we are also, I'm going to show you how to make fall trees. Using your stamping blends and your white emboss, how to make this really pretty fall design on your trees. Now this one was done in black. I love the contrast. This one I just did on some, I believe this is Mossy Meadow. I like the way that one looks too. It's subtle. It just brings in that fall look. This one I did on our Mary Merlot. Personally, this one's my favorite. But what I'm going to do for today is we're going to do this fall tree, but we are going to do it on black and see how it turns out. Haven't done it yet, so you get to do it with me. So since this little fall tree takes just a little bit longer, we are going to start with our flowers. And this will give you a basic idea of how to do the technique. So to start, I've gone ahead and cut out our greetings and things through the, just to save some time. And I'm using Night of Navy. I've got a Whisper White card base, and then I've got a Night of Navy that is 4 by 5 1/4. So let me set that aside. So we're going to go ahead and start. I'm going to get my stamp set. And this one, believe it or not, I'm not even going to use my Stamparatus. I know, mark the calendar, right? I always use my Stamparatus. But this one's pretty simple to just stamp the images we need. So I'm taking out the two solid images of the flowers, and I'm going to take out the solid leaves. Set that aside. Let's start with our big flower. Let's put it on our Stampin' block. Put our little one here. Then I'm going to put the leaves on the back side of this one. So I've got all my stuff gathered together there. Now you need your Versamark. And you're also going to need your white embossing powder. And I've just got a scrap paper here to put it in the back in its container. I would suggest also using your embossing buddy for this. Although having little white speckle accents is part of the love of doing this, the dynamics of the bright colors against the darker cardstock. But we're going to add our own spots instead of overspray from our embossing. So we're just going to wipe this really nicely with our little embossing buddy. Your embossing buddy is merely some anti-static powder in a pouch. And all it does is keep embossing powder from sticking where you don't want it to stick before you heat it. So let's go ahead and get our, I know my Versamark pad is dirty. You know what? It doesn't hurt it. It really doesn't. If you've got a clean Versamark pad, I'd love to see a picture of it that you've used. Okay, no cheating. You can't put a picture of a new one. You have to put one you've used and tell me it's really clean. So let's go ahead and let's put one here. And let's put one in this corner here. And I'm going to add one just a little farther up. Let's bring in our little one. Okay, this leaf bothers me because then I can't see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to add a little one in here. Let's add one more little one toward the top here. Okay. Now we're going to bring in our leaves. Let me set that one aside. Now on these leaves, I'm going to put Versamark on, but I'm going to try not to get this little stem right here. And the easiest way to do that is just bring in a little wipe. So I'm going to Versamark my leaves. Just kind of stamp it toward the edge, and then you avoid getting it on the stem, because I don't need the stem to show here. So let's put some leaves about here. Let's put a couple more. I'm going to wipe that stem because I put a couple more there. Let's do one more set of leaves right in between these two flowers here. Close that up. Let's add our Versamark. I'm going to grab a brush. A lot of times I use a brush, just a little soft bristle brush in case you get embossing powder where you don't want it. I can see I already put Versamark fingerprint on there, but that's okay. So let's add our embossing powder. See where I've got a little bit of little powder areas that I don't want? Just take your soft brush, brush them off. I think we've got it. Because the white is going to show up very easily on this dark cardstock. And then when you use scrap paper, you can actually just fold it, pour it right back in your container. Set that aside. I always put the lid on because about the first time you hit your embossing container with your heat tool, you'll remember to put the lid on. So let's heat set this. A lot of times I'll heat from the back a little bit. Just kind of helps your paper get warmed up. This is one of my favorite things, is heat embossing. When I first went to my very first stamping class, which I'd never even heard of stamping before, we did heat embossing and I was hooked. Just love watching the transformation. Okay, there we go. Now, we're going to bring in a few of our Stampin' Blends. These are the alcohol markers. And for this one, I've got the Old Olive, light and dark for the leaves. And then I'm using, you kind of want to use the darker version of your markers. It's going to show up better, kind of the same as when you're doing it the old way. You wanted to use your more vibrant pencils on the white crafting. That way it's going to be bold showing up on this dark background. So I'm just using the Night of Navies and the Old Olive for this one. So we're going to start with the Old Olive, and I'm going to show you how this works. See if I can move you in a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to color, got a little bit of dust going on there. So I'm going to color the whole leaf with the light. And this alcohol marker will dry on the embossing powder. But it'll stay wet for a couple seconds. And while it's wet, just like you would if you were coloring with your markers normally, I'm going to add my dark accents. And I'm just going to go over half that leaf and add my dark accent. And then you have your two-tone leaves. So since this stays wet just a little bit longer because of the smooth surface, normally when you're using your blends, you try to do one little area at a time. This one I can actually go over all my leaves and have plenty of time to go back if I want to do any blending. So I'm going to color those completely. And we'll go in with our dark accents. And I'm just picking a side of the leaf. It's just something to add a little focal interest. That's all you're doing. You could leave it one color if you want to. You know, like most techniques, it's what you prefer. Always what you prefer. Art is in the eye of the beholder. So if you like it a certain way, then that's the way it should be. Me, I'm kind of get into the detail part of it. So now I'm going to use my Night of Navies. And I'm also going to need my color lifter. And I will show you why. So we're going to go ahead with our light. Color our whole flower. And it's okay if you have some white tips. I mean, because we're going to be adding some white or some lighter areas to this. So, although that looks really neat the way it is, let's keep going. I'll show you. So, like most of the stamps, where the little lines are normally where your darker accents are going to go. Okay? Just pull a little bit of dark. It's going to blend right into what you've already put there. Just highlight the dark areas on your petals where the lines are. Now we're going to bring in our color lifter and go, now this is not going to hurt it, okay? You're going to go and you're going to add some of your light accents. See how it just will come right off the tip? Just tap it on your paper. And let's add those light accents on this flower. It's going to lift it, and it'll also blend it for you. Then every so often, just tap it on your paper, and it'll wipe off what you've lifted. We're just adding some light accents to our flower. See what a difference that makes? Just making it a little bit, it adds your 3 tones. So you're going to add that little light wherever you want it. Mostly your light is going to go toward the tips of your flower petals. Like if you look at a picture of a flower, mostly the very tips are light. Okay, wipe that off. I will fast forward through this, but you're going to do each of the flowers the same way. So I'm going to add my light. Use the brush. And there you go. It just like that. Look at the accent and the different colors against this dark blue. How vibrant is that? Now, for the greeting, oh, I was going to show you. I shouldn't get ahead of myself. Now, to add accents, I have a white gel pen. Now, if you want, you can color these in like I did here and put a yellow center. So all you do is take your gel pen, color in your centers. You could leave it white if you wanted. If you have a chalk marker, I bet that would work too. My chalk marker's dried out. I used it up, and my new order hasn't come yet. So I'm just using a gel pen. And let those dry. And now let's just add a couple little white accents here. So we're just going to do a few little dots here. There we go. And now this white should be dry here, and I'm just going to take, believe it or not, this is Mango Melody, the dark, and that way it'll make that nice and yellow. There we go. Now for the birthday greeting, I have the die cut of birthday from the Well Wishes bundle, and I've cut out 3 of them. I want to layer them to give it a little more depth. So all of this is scrap white I had. You can tell there's black on the back of it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on here. Real light. You don't need a lot. Just kind of make sure you got a tiny little dab. If you have a glue sponge, that would work perfect right here. And I'm going to layer these together. Use glue, you can shift it a little bit. You know how I'm a glue girl. Oops, I just pulled it off my fingers, got glue on it. Or when you die cut these, if you have adhesive sheets, you can die cut these with adhesive backing on the back of them. That's layer 2. I want to do 3 layers. Put a little glue on. The glue off my fingers. So I don't have ink on me yet today, just glue. See how it just adds a little more dimension having it thicker? So we got our birthday. And let's put a little, I'm going to glue the birthday directly down. I suppose if you can figure out how to put itty bitty parts of dimensional on this, you could do it that way, but that would be some pretty tedious dimensional work. I'll bring in my tweezers here. Let's put it about right there. Okay, and now I white embossed on black from the same set, the Well Wishes bundle, Happy and Wishes, and I'm just gonna use snips to cut them. Now these I'll put on with dimensionals. I'm gonna grab my little mini dimensionals here. I love these little mini dimensionals. That was one of the best things they ever came out with. Except for I can never get the little backings off. There we go. And let's put this one about right there. We'll put this one right there. Then we will just glue it directly down to our card base. And there you go. You have a simple, elegant black magic with a twist card. Okay, now this next one, I've just got to show you how to do this tree. It is so fun, and it's much easier than you would think. Let's set those aside there. Now we're going to take our black, and this one we are using the tree from Rooted in Nature. We're going to use this one right here. There's a lot of solid area there. And this one I'm going to use my Stamparatus. Oops, because I want a nice stamped embossed image. So I want to make sure, just in case I have to stamp it a second time. We'll set our tree on here. Now don't forget your embossing buddy. Just keeps the excess away. We will ink this one up. See, I'm going to do it one more time. I want a nice embossed image here. Okay. Set our Stamparatus aside. Let's bring in our white embossing. You know, I do a lot of embossing, and I have to say, Stampin' Up! Has the best embossing powders. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I'm saying that because it melts the best, and I've tried a lot of them. I just really enjoy their embossing powders. So there are some things I just won't bargain shop for, and it's not expensive with Stampin' Up! Not at all. And your embossing powders, unless you're embossing every day, are going to last you a long time. Let's cover that up. Now I'm going to bring in my little brush and get any little... You can always see when you're embossing on dark colors, any sort of little... So just brush it off. It's not going to hurt it to have a little bit of accents in there, but it's not the look I'm going for. Okay, set that aside. Let's heat set it. There it goes. This tree is perfect for this fall technique I'm going to show you. I did do it with some other trees, and I'll show you examples of those. Okay, make sure that's cooled off. Now, bring in your Mango Melody, the dark, your dark pumpkin pie. We're also going to use our dark old olive, and we're also going to bring in, this is our dark Cajun craze. You also need, this one is the bronze brown marker. So let's take that one. And I usually use my feather tip for this. Let's see if I can move in for you. So you're going to color your tree trunk with your brown. This is your bronze brown. And now you can see a few little branches here. Maybe hit those branches with a little bit of brown. You're just adding some brown accent in there. Hit a few of those branches. And now, let me get my edge here, I kind of missed it. And you can always go back over it a little as it dries, and it'll give you a little bit darker look. So I'm going to go off to the edge a little here, kind of dab my pen, and give it a little bit darker right on that edge. Just for accent. Now, take your feather tip of your Mango Melody, and now you're just going to dot. Just do random dots all around your tree. And you're just kind of daubing it with your feather tip here. I kind of put my pen at an angle, so I'm kind of using the side of the feather tip there to make a bigger dot. So I'm just going to add little dots all over that. Now let's go to our next color, which is the orange. Same thing, just dot, kind of, try not to go over your yellow too much, but it's okay because it's just going to kind of blend it, and just randomly do your dots. And it turns out looking like fall leaves, or you know how the trees have multiple colors. So you're filling in your white. So we've got some orange there. Now let's bring in our green. Go in the spots that haven't been hit. So all we're going to do is keep doing this systematically until the white is filled in. Isn't that neat how it comes together? Looks like a fall tree. Well, now we're going to add, I'm going to be gentle with my Cajun craze because it's pretty dark. Let's add some Cajun craze in there. Trying to now hit my white areas. You're just trying to be random at it. So there's no, you don't have to concentrate on it too much. Just trying to make sure all your white is covered. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in with my yellow. And when you do this with the yellow, it's going, and then just start dabbing, try to hit your white areas. It's actually going to blend the dots. that you've already put down. So it's going to blend the green and the orange as you hit it with the yellow. And now you're hitting those white spots. And this is not going to hurt your marker, because all you're going to do is wipe it off like that. And it's back to being normal. It's not going to contaminate it. It's just like you were doing on regular paper, where you can blend your alcohol markers together. So when you go in with this yellow again and you're hitting your white spots, it's blending the orange, the yellow, and the green. You'll see it. I'm just dabbing away. And when you're hitting the Cajun craze with this yellow, it kind of gives it another dimension of color. So I want to add, I'm going to wipe that off, just swipe it on your paper. I'm going to add a little more green in here. It's early fall, so there's still some green on my tree. I'm just going to randomly go in there, add a little bit of green. I forgot to wipe that off. And look at that. You have this beautiful fall tree. I am going to go in with my bronze marker because we've kind of covered some of it. And I just want to get a little bit of brown on those branches again. Just for a little... I mean, you probably can't see it on film, but it just adds a little detail to your project to show the brown branches in there. And there you go. You have a fall tree. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this on some crushed curry. I have a little embossing powder on the back of my paper here. I'll move back out for you. So I'm going to put this on a crushed curry mat. A real thin mat. So it's only about an 1/8 inch larger than your focal piece. I will have the measurements and supplies and everything listed in the details in this blog. So now I'm using the wood grain from the new, what is it called? Come Together. And it's got some really beautiful DSP, but all I wanted was the wood. I don't want to be too busy to take from my item, and I'm just going to put this piece on a black mat. Another real thin mat, only an 1/8 inch bigger. And now I want to add the crushed curry, this new crushed curry. What do they call this ribbon? It's the crinkled seam binding. And it's got little crinkles in it. And it's real fine. It's really pretty. So let's add just a little bit of ribbon to our little deal here. So I'm just going to bring in my tape. This is about the only time I really use tape. And I use it on my ribbon because it holds it flat for you. I'm going to put a little bit on the ends and the center. And let's put it about 1/3 of the way up. Oops. Just fold over our edges. And now our focal image, I'm going to use dimensionals. I don't know if you guys saw my blog post a few days ago. My husband yells across the house, "Honey, come here, quick. Something wrong with the dog." So, okay. So I come out, and he's all upset. He's like, "Look at her nose. Oh, no, it's horrible." My dog had a dimensional stuck to her nose, and it looked like some horrible growth, and of course freaked my husband out. She survived. And she's black, so it was a white dimensional in the tip of her nose. Okay, then I have made a little bow out of my same ribbon. And I am just going to use a little glue dot to attach that. So you just stick your bow onto your glue dot. Just going to set that there. Oh, did I not do a greeting? I thought I did a greeting. Well, I guess we're going to do a greeting. And I have a couple of tiny little fall leaves that I've done in old olive, crushed curry, and pumpkin pie. And these come from the To Every Season. See the little fall leaf? And it's got a matching mini punch to go with it. So that's where those came from. We need to do our greeting, and we don't know what I did with my greeting paper. So we'll do a greeting, and we will add some little fall leaves to it. Let's see if I can find those. Find it. I was going to make the greeting for you, show you how I did it. But it will be in the bottom of this post. I won't make you guys wait till I go find paper. Go find. And all I did was this. Put your Happy Harvest Blessings, which comes from the Country Home Set. This Happy Harvest Blessings. Put it in your stamp apparatus. And what I did is I used the marker to stamp technique here. And I used the, what did I use? I used the basic black and the pumpkin pie. And I used black on here. And then the pumpkin pie on Harvest. Stamped it. And then cut it out. Sponge your edges. And sponge just a little bit of your leaves. Just add them a little bit of accent. And you will come up with that. So I went and got my scrap piece of vanilla. I wanted to show you how I did the greeting. So we have a scrap piece of vanilla, and it's, what's the measurement of this? I'd say it's just under 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to take our Happy Harvest Blessing, line it up. Now what I mean by marker to stamp is what I'm going to show you. So you're going to take your Stampin' Right markers, use your feather edge, and I want the Harvest in orange, so I'm just going to color the stamp, basically, the harvest there. I'm using the side of my marker to get the ink on there, okay. Now I'm going to take my basic black, do the happy. You can see it a little bit better with how this works with the darker marker. And I'm just coloring the happy and the blessings. And that'll give us our two-tone greeting. So now huff or breathe on it, and the steam from your breath will moisten the ink, and then you stamp it. Now you'll probably want to use your stamparatus for this in case you need to restamp it. Like, see, my harvest needs to be restamped, so I'm all lined up, and I'm just going to ink up harvest there. I used to do this a lot, but when I first started, I didn't have all the ink pads, but I had all the markers, so I could stamp in any color with doing it this way. I'm going to hit that harvest one more time. Mostly right over here I missed it. I like it in the orange. It kind of gives it that watercolor look. So there, that's how we did our greeting. And now I'm just going to take my snips, do a little angle cut here. Nothing dramatic. Take our card. And I do want to do dimensionals on this. I'm going to do 3 dimensionals. I never skimp on dimensionals. Those of you that have been following me very long, I have some quirky little things, and dimensionals is one of them. The story behind it is I went to a family member's house, and I sent them a card early on, and I kind of skimped on my dimensionals. Well, by the time it got to them in the mail, oh my, it had really fallen apart or crushed. So I'm just going to take some crushed curry and a sponge, my little tiny leaves here, and just sponge the edges a little. I probably should have sponged the greeting too, but just going to sponge those a little. Add a touch of glue, or you can use a glue dot. Put one there. I'm going to sponge the edge. It just gives it a little more dimension when you sponge it. Touch of glue here. And I've got one orange one left. And let's put it right here. And there you go. There's the finished card. I hope you enjoyed today's technique and our black magic with a twist. So here's our flower card. Now this one is also done with the winter woods the same way as we just did our big tree, where you use dots on your trees and you end up with a fall tree line. This one is done on Mary Merlot. I like the subtle of how that blends with the Merlot. The same come together, DSP in the back, and just a seasonal thanks there. And then this is today's. Look at how dynamic against the black that is. I hope you had fun with this technique. Go ahead and give it a try. Share your projects with me. I'd love to see them. Hope you have a happy stamping day. Bye-bye now.